for another wonderful CTC Theater Chat. We have quite a treat today. My name is Fran De Leon. I am one of the Drama Week Directing Fellows here for the summer. Thanks for letting me be part of your community. It's been really, really wonderful to get to know you all and friends. And my friends over here who brought me my snack, Irene and Steve, thank you so much. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Today is, the topic is Finding True Self, the solo show. Because we have a solo show on the main stage right now. The real James Bond was Dominican. Yes. How many were able to make it to the shows of the, oh, very good. And then the rest of you are all coming in the next few days, yes? Yes. So joining us today, of course, the wonderful Jade King Carroll, who you all know and love, our producing artistic director here. Brilliant director, visionary artistic leader. Her work has been seen at major theaters across the country, an incredible champion of playwrights and new plays. And that's actually one of the biggest things that attracted me to applying for the fellowship in the first place. I got to witness this dedication firsthand in the room for the first new play workshop of Pranayama by James Anthony Tyler. Jade is absolutely passionate, committed to the processes of new works, and in fact, the final main stage show of the season is not only helmed by Jade, but actually commissioned by Jade.
By Chautauqua Theater
Company. And it was workshopped here. It was formerly titled Tell Me You're Dying. It is now called The Witnesses. Those of you who were at the workshop last time, what's exciting is you saw some things that may not show up on stage, or saw some things that have been massaged and worked through. So that's going to be very exciting. That is the final main stage production of the season. But first, let's talk about the very first main stage production. Christopher Rivas, who writer and performer. Chris and I have known each other for decades. It is just happenstance that we are here at Chautauqua together. We've circled each other in theater companies in LA. We have been in the same theater companies, but we've never worked together. So we had to come to Western New York to do that. I have always found Chris to be incredibly charismatic and talented and a really, really giving soul. He's an author, an actor, a podcaster, a speaker, a storyteller, born and raised in New York City, Queens to be specific. He made his acting debut in 5th grade, his first professional show at the famous Duke Theater on 42nd Street. He is what we lovingly refer to as a Cal-Artian. In other words, he attended Cal Arts, the California Institute of the Arts. Very prestigious place. Do we have Cal-Artians out here? Oh, okay. Cal-Artian adjacent. As an author, Chris has penned Brown Enough, which is part memoir, part social commentary on what it is to be brown in a black and white world. I can relate. He dives in deep in this book. It's an honest exploration of love, sex, fake it till you make it, ambition, bad Spanish, color code switching, whitewashing scandals, and Hollywood, and more. Oh, Hollywood is calling you right now, Chris.
I've been waiting.
Yes. He will also be signing books after our talk back here, our theater chat here, so please make sure you stick around for that. Keynote speaker for NBC Universal, LinkedIn, TikTok, Headspace, YouTube.
I'm finding all this.
I'm a stalker. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And if you saw the show, you know what that means. If you didn't, start practicing now. His talks are a talk about liberation, which is less self-help, more communal health. We could all use that. The cost of pretending. Bodies of culture who have been asked to change parts of themselves in order to move forward, and the power of DEI and what that means in the workplace. And I think DEI is definitely something we all should be focusing on right now to make sure we still have it. So that's kind of like the big breakdown. I wanted to talk really fast so that we could get to the questions. Finding your true self is the topic of this chat, so I wanted to pose the same question to each of you, but framing it a little bit differently. For you, Chris, I read an interview. Like I said, I stopped you. And you were asked to give advice to young and aspiring artists, and what you said was, you just have to begin, whether it be just a paint stroke, or poem, or through baking, or it might be play, but just begin. So could you tell us how you just began the work of finding your true self, especially in the casting of Hollywood where we're kind of forced into boxes? How did you find your true self? I'll let you answer, and then Jade, I have a similar question, but different framework.
Yeah, I think a lot of my life as an artist, as a human, and maybe many of us here can agree, is there's a bit of luck, like right place, right time. And having the ability, thank God, my parents, they said yes to me more than they said no. And I really thank them for that on a consistent basis. Bless you. Because they were said no to a lot, like over and over. And so they didn't know what to do as parents other than be like, if it doesn't harm them, we'll say yes. And I got to see John Leguizamo on Broadway as a young man. At 13 years old, and I was like, that's it, you know. I was a little kid who didn't like myself. Some of you heard this in the show. And I saw someone being themselves, and I think that's the first time I really saw it in its entirety. And I was like, oh, so it's possible to be yourself. I didn't even have language, I didn't have words for it. It's just like 13-year-old me was like, yeah, that. And I went home and I remember being in the shower, like doing my own little like one-man show. You know? And then ever since then, I just have been, you know, I'm grateful that I had a great mentor in Yusef Kumunyaka. He's a poet. You know Yusef?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Yusef told me our only job as artists is to remain open. That's our only job, is to let the spirit move you. Let the inspiration come in and receive you, and you receive it. And so that's kind of been my job ever since I think I've been 13. Like, I just have tried to stay open. Am I supposed to be here? Where does the wind blow today? You know, I have a fiction book coming out next year, and my agent asked me this morning, do you have another fiction book in you? And I said, if the wind blows that way. You know, like, not an answer she wanted to hear, by the way. But I was just like, I don't know. So my journey has been one of just taking the next step. I try to not think of the outcome, because I know too many people, and I think we all know people who have brilliant ideas, but they never began because they never took the first step. And I really don't believe in outcomes, because we might not even make it to tomorrow. So why wouldn't we take the first step today? Yeah.
Thank you. That's really beautiful. I was going to ask you about mentors as well later, so that was wonderful for you to include that here. Speaking of mentors, the last theater chat was about mentorship with Jade and Emily Mann. And something that Emily talked about you, Jade, is how she would recommend a play, and she'd give you that play, and then you would go off and you would find every other play by that author and read every single play. You talked about the numerous internships and fellowships and assistantships that you did. You had this great body of experience in working with people and intaking that information. So with all of that, how did you as a director then find your true self and your true voice as a director, and then subsequently as an artistic director?
Gosh, I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky. And I touched on this, but I grew up around female artists in leadership positions as directors. In Zakachonge, Emily Mann, my father's a dark-skinned black jazz musician who's constantly creating with all people that looked from all over the world. So that's what I knew.
Yeah.
So, you know, it sounds almost, I feel like guilty saying this, but I was never, I always saw representation. The door was always open to me into a creative space. There's a music studio, my mom writes poetry. We didn't have a whole lot of money because my dad's a jazz musician and my mom writes poetry. But she ran a bookstore, and early she said, anything you read, you can own. And she meant literally, but she teases me now. She was like, I didn't think you were literally going to become a director. Like, everything I read is my story now. How am I going to tell it? But at every turn, both my parents, my mentors, I was just around artists that looked all different bodies, sizes, and cultures that all belonged and all created together. It's music, that happens a lot. So I never questioned my gut. And then I had people, when I had questions, I had people to answer them. So I was really lucky. And it wasn't until I was in college that I realized that it was going to be a little harder than I thought. But I had already known who I was and what I wanted. But I was really lucky.
Yeah, that's great. That's really beautiful that you had that. And I'm really lucky that I have you to ask questions. So I also want to, I'm going to stick with you, Jade, for a second here. I'm really fascinated in how an artistic director plans their season. And one of the things, going back to you, Chris, is that you had said you use storytelling to disrupt what is with the possibility of what can be. It's not really about answers, it is about asking bigger questions. So Jade, I want to ask you this question of what questions do you ask of the plays that come across your desk to then say, this is the one that I want to include in the season? And specifically, if we can tack that on, what question did the real James Bond was going to answer for you to bring it this year?
I have 3 basic questions, and I ask them as a freelancer, and most certainly there's one that I might not ask as a freelancer. Why now? Why with this community, and why in this season? So like, is it in conversation with the community? Is it in conversation with the other plays in the season? Is there like a through line? It doesn't have to happen, but I do like having a season that talks to each other. And is there a why now? And that, the why now carries through for a lot of things in my artistic life. And this play answered all of those. And then also we were interested in a new, like we're running Execution of Justice, which has the entire conservatory. Our conservatory and our fellows are here all summer working on all of these, but Execution of Justice is kind of the centerpiece that has all of the conservatory and so many artists in it. And we're going to run that a little longer, so we're just trying a different, as we're looking to the black box, just looking at different models, witnesses. We're doing world premieres every season now, and wanting to give those. Legally, you have to do at least 15 productions of a world premiere for it to be considered a world premiere. And often agents want it to be 20 to 25, we can't do 25, but we have to run a world premiere a little longer than we have. And just looking at like the structure of what those 2 things meant, what do we put at the beginning of this season that is strong? Emily and I are looking at like what it is to bring shows in and also to do a one-person show. And when I tell you I read so many one-person shows that I could not find the why now. I'll be generous. I could not find the why now, and I didn't feel anything. That's the other thing. It doesn't make me feel. I like to feel first and then think. Does it make me feel, and is it a conversation? So Emily saw this in Pittsburgh. We both were aware of it. Emily could get there first. She loved it. She said, definitely go see it. I flew out. I saw it. It was at Claire Trobot, who's she's now the only artistic director, sole artistic director at City Theater. They build all our sets. She was like, yeah, you should definitely come see it. I can't believe this isn't one that was in front of her mind because she was producing it that I hadn't already sent to you. So I flew out to Pittsburgh and just fell in love with the work, with the why now, with the conversation, with the performer, how vulnerable, personal it makes you think. It's in conversation with this whole season that's about community and belonging and who gets to tell a story. And like it just like clicked immediately. And then I really liked the human behind the artist as well. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Throwing it back to you, Chris. Your book, Brown Enough. Let's talk about the questions that you asked yourself when you were sitting down to write this memoir / social commentary.
Yeah, emphasis on questions. I'm like deeply in love with questions. Everyone and their mother is looking for an answer, but only people like with real courage have the courage to ask big fat questions. And then as Rilke says, maybe we can live ourselves into an answer. And I would like to live myself into an answer of a big fat question. Again, I go with the wind. I did not intend to write a book. Like, a scene from Real James Bond was Dominican, got into the New York Times, it got into Modern Love about dating white women. It went very viral. It got translated into like 7 different languages, and it was insane. And then I had book agents out the wazoo calling me saying, "Do you have a book in you?" And I was like, "I don't think I do." And this one book agent was like a doula. She was like a book doula. You know, she helped me birth this thing in me. And she looked at my writing. I had had some other writings and other publications, and she helped me find my own questions. And what my question constantly is how do I create spaces of belonging? And what does belonging mean and feel like and look like? Why do we all deeply desire to be seen? Not just me, I think all of you. There's no human being on this planet that doesn't walk into a room and want to know that they are enough in that space. That's why we do anything. And so that became the sort of big question of my work. And due to incredible editors and like my, Colleen, this book doula, we found this journey of the way my body has moved through the world and the way my heart and mind have moved through the world in order to try and belong and know that I am enough.
Another question that I want to ask you is, after doing James Bond for how many years now have you been?
Long time.
I think 2018 was.
Yeah, we might have premiered in 18, and then we were about to have a tour, a nice tour during the pandemic, but then we all know that happened. And then the book came out, and then I was on the TV show, so it got pushed back, and so it's just kind of like resurfaced.
Oh, and that TV show was?
I was on a sitcom called Call Me Cat. Yeah.
We have some Call Me Cat fans over here. How would you say you have changed since 2018? The 2018 Chris, or even the 2014, because I think that's when you wrote the first draft, right? The true self then and the true self today.
Oh yeah, I mean, I really don't, excuse my French, but like, I don't know, I'll use nice French. I care so much less what people think of me. In 2018, 14, cared a lot what people thought of me. And I have come every day to fall in love with myself more and more. And I can really stand in my own worth in such a beautiful way. And that, I think this show gave me that. I literally asked questions in the show of Ruby and of myself, but ones that I believe deeply I've come to answer, or see, or know, or live myself into. So yeah.
By the way, neither of them were primed on what questions were going to be asked today, so you are getting incredibly honest, authentic, and open answers here, so I appreciate you for that. Jade, how about you in terms of your transformation as a freelance, outside of Chautauqua, which is a very different environment, and then coming into a very specific population? That, what was that transformation for you? Or was there one? Or were you like, no, I'm just, it's just that there happens to be gates around this community versus the rest of the world?
No, it's definitely, it's a singular community, and I live in Manhattan the rest of the year, so it's a different rhythm. I don't know that it feels so much as a transformation. When I came to, so I was from 23 to 32, 33. I was in a fellowship or internship, an apprenticeship. I was in a year-long relationship with a theater company, whether McCarter or Second Stage, New York Theater Workshop. Like I worked at a bunch of different, but there was these like weekly meetings that we would have where we would talk about what we saw. we would have just a weekly artistic check-in, and having that kind of community to check in about these. So I was craving that in the years between 33 and 2 years ago when I took this job, 32, 33. So I was hungry for that kind of going back to having that artistic community, to be in conversation with both like the Emily Clinic inside with the artists, with the company, and with the larger community. Because as a freelancer, I get like the microcosm of that. I'm someplace for 4 or 5 weeks. I love doing community work. I go to scary places or places where I feel very loud in my being because they're not used to artists that look like me or stories with people like me in them. And then do community building, and that's really satisfying. And then I leave, and I hear about how it plays out in the rehearsal reports. So I was craving to kind of be here. So it wasn't a transformation that I was responding to, it was one that I was seeking.
Yeah, that's great, that's beautiful. I wanted to ask about your inspirations as well. You told us about your mentor, you also mentioned John Leguizamo as an inspiration. I know that Queens is a big inspiration, flavoring your style and your work. Talk to me about John Leguizamo. A little bit more. I know you talked about
cool. He wrote the forward for my book, which was really sweet and incredible. He's now become a good friend of mine, and talk about like luck. You know, I was on the TV show, and this director, Phil Lewis, I was actually playing piano like this, and he's a huge piano guy, and I was working on this Stevie Wonder song, and we're chatting, and I said, yeah, I got this book, and you know, man, it would be so incredible. He was like, why'd you start acting? And I said, John Leguizamo, I got this book, it would be amazing if you could like read it. And he said, I know John. And people all the time say they're gonna do something in Hollywood, but they don't do it. Maybe all over the world. And he said, just email it to me. And I was like, sure, whatever. So I emailed to him, and I get a random phone call 3 days later from someone named Ben DeJesus, who's like John's, like, you know, like the reason he can be in 37 places at once. And Ben says, I heard you got this book, you know. When do you need the thing by, the quote? And I was like, a week ago. And he was like, okay, give me a sec. And the next day I had this, John had read the book, and I had this quote from him, and now we've done a couple things together, and yeah, like I think again, luck and, you know, right place, right time. Keep your heart open, and just keep moving forward. Yeah. But John's great. He's a great inspiration. I mean, like he's amazing, and he's wickedly talented. Yeah.
He has got so much that he's already presented, and you can tell that there's even more. I mean, I saw his show in DC last year, and that was really fabulous to see him, not in a solo show. And I'm curious about that as well for both of you. Just real quick, and then we'll turn it over to you. The difference between a solo show and a scripted, you know, scene work play, and Jade also in terms of a director approaching those two, because they're different art forms, yeah?
Oh. Not an actor, never been an actor. You know, I think it's a taste thing. There's not a right or wrong way to do any kind of art form. The way, and it's a conversation. It works best when it's a conversation for me, when it feels like the audience is necessary, in a way, the audience is always necessary, but to the conversation in a way that, like, all my sons, you can have the same dynamic without the audience. I think that so previews, when I'm directing a one-person show, previews are incredible, and they're always important, but they're incredibly important because it's a different conversation with the audience, not just the scenes. I think the way I dramaturge them is different. Like the way I look at the structure of them isn't always linear. Linear means something different. Sure. It's so unique because each show is different. I've only done it's not where I live is in a solo show, but I have directed a few, and I've worked with like the greats, like Taylor Anderson and Anna Deere Smith, and wants to work and what they want it to be. And all of those artists are also the writers inside their work.
Yes. Chris, you want to speak to that?
Sure. I've only written one show that doesn't involve just me. So, we don't know what we know until we know it. And we're on the journey we're on as long as we're on it. And we're called to whatever the calling we're called to as long as we're called to it. And so that's my journey. And like I said, I never thought I'd write a fiction book. That's coming out next year. So it's just, I'm evolving as a person. I'm becoming less selfish. I think I'm becoming less me-centered and more us-centered. I'm deeply in love with bonsai lately. So in bonsai, you plant a tree off-center to make space for more life. And so I'm trying to treat myself like bonsai and plant myself off-center to make space for more life.
That's great. A lot of people speak like Chris does, but Chris actually does what he speaks. I mean, really, really, truly. So we're going to turn this over to some audience questions. I'm going to hand the mic over. There we go.
What advice do you have for old aspiring artists? Actors.
Keep doing it. Keep showing up. What rooms do you want to be in? Keep going to auditions. Keep reading the new work. People start their careers at every age. I like to think of Chautauqua also as the full life cycle of a play and the full life cycle of an artist. So we have 22-year-olds on our stage, and we have people in their 70s on our stage. And years ago I worked on I was a casting associate for Charles Queens Boulevard. And it's like, you do the EPAs, and normally EPAs are equity principal auditions, kind of like the cattle calls that you have to have. Normally people do not get cast off of EPAs, although John Douglas Thompson's career started that way. And I remember, I forget who the director was. He runs Hudson Valley Shakespeare, right? David, Cullen? Anyway, the director actually cast someone on an EPA who hadn't worked in like 20, 25 years. She looked the part. She was magnificent, and she was in an off-Broadway Chuck Me, Davis McCullum play, because she showed up to an EPA. I would say she was in her 60s or 70s. So I just keep showing up.
I feel like a newborn, I just think that's what's so cool about being an artist. It's never ending.
Yeah.
And that's really tight. I've been meditating deeply with this line. I have a friend named Sandy Brackett, and she asked me, "Are you an artist if no one sees your work?" And this was like a koan. A koan is a question that's not meant to be answered, but lived into, right? So this whole thing with questions goes way back, koans. What is the sound of one hand clapping? What is your original face? Koans. And this was a koan. Are you an artist if no one sees your work? Can you embody the spirit of an artist? And I think that's what I want to do, is I want to move through the world in an artistic way, not be validated because I booked something or did something. Like, to me, the joy of being an artist is in the spirit of it. It's how I see the trees. It's how I receive the wind. It's how I make room to fall in love with things and people over and over again. And so I am a newborn as you are a newborn, and we're always able to just be rebirthed in our artistry.
I'm not sure I can phrase this question quite the way I want to, but so you've written a play that you started on in 2014, and it's one-person show. The person you are now is not the person you were then, and you've performed it for a number of years. How is that change, your personal change, reflected in your performances, or is it, or in the play itself, as you move forward and change as a person? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think transparently, I'm a much better actor than I was then. There is a craft to the craft. I think the best advice I give any actor in acting is be honest, but your ability to be honest is only as can you be in your own life? And as I've met myself over and over again, you know, and done the thing I know is wrong for me, but do it anyway, like the more transparent and vulnerable I can be in my own life, the more honest I can be with you and on a stage and in my writing and in my work. So I've just evolved as an artist, and I just think I'm a better actor now. Like, I think Chris was doing the work, because like Chris needed to do the work and ask the questions, but now I have so much more craft in combination with my love and sort of my raw passion.
But as the writer, I guess, do you sit there and say, you know, the 2025 me wouldn't think that, wouldn't say that. The 2014 or 2018 may have, but now you're performing something you wrote a while ago. Do you ever say, oh, I have to change that?
Yeah, and I think that's why directors are great. You know, like Daniel Banks always says, I had a call with the writer and he said to respect his words. You know, like sometimes you just need to stop changing things. And you also need to know that it's not always, even though I wrote it, it's not about me anymore. Like when I did this in New York, and a young student from Pace University came up to me and he said, man, I always thought I needed well, he was actually Pakistani. He was like, I need a Pakistani Superman, or I needed a Pakistani this. He was like, actually, I just need regular people being themselves. You know, and so it's not about me anymore. So I think the words can be what they are. Yeah.
Obviously, in the show, audience participation and audience engagement is so important. Was there a version of the show where the audience wasn't as involved? And what did that look like?
I had so many versions of the show. There was a version where it was just like him and his therapist, which was really funny in my opinion, but not the show. I had a lot of versions, a lot. I had a version where it was sort of like in a karaoke room, you know, he was singing like I'm Just a Gigolo and other songs. I had a lot of versions. So I think that's where I believe in collaboration in art, and you know, Daniel helped me find this thing that we're doing. And I also do really believe I don't exist without you. Like I need you. I need you as a novelist, I need you as a writer, I need you as a playwright. Like I need, we're in dialogue together. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
No. Your hand was up though, right? Yeah, who's that?
I haven't seen the show, but I hear great things here and wonderful comments from Pittsburgh as well. This is kind of a technique question. It was almost answered, and that is, can you talk about different ways of putting a one-person show together? What are the structures, if you like, gimmicks, the tricks, the technique of that particular craft? And also, do some work better for you than others?
Yeah, so I think this ties into my, you don't know what it's going to be until it gets there. And people spend forever not beginning because they want it to be good. Like, get the shit-tastic draft out of the way. Like, just get the shit out. And my greatest gift as an artist is I can vomit up terrible stuff. But like, I can knock out 100 pages easy of crap. And that's what I do. And so I have this really very, very, very different piece called How to Get Free, which premieres in November. And that, it was just like, I knew I was deeply in love with, oh my God, with Sisyphus, Tantalus, and Narcissus. I don't know why I was called to it, but I've always loved them as curses that I believe we needed to wake up to. And Cassandra, I don't know if you know about Cassandra, but she was given the gift of prophecy, but then when she wouldn't sleep with Apollo, he was like, now no one will believe you. And I was like, oh, we're living that. You know, we've been told so many destructive things are gonna happen and we don't believe them. When will we start believing Cassandra? So that's like my seed. And then I call my friend Matt, and I'm like, he's a director and he works in a very different way than Daniel or other people. And I said, I got this thing. And he said, cool. Like, and he said, oh, I want this, you know, and I just start collaborating. I'm making this piece called The Punchline, which is about death, and if we had a year to live, would we change our lives? And that's it. I call my friend Kevin and I say, Kevin, I wrote 20 terrible pages and Kevin loves me, and Kevin says I'll read it, and Kevin asks me questions, and then this other person asks me questions, and I don't think there is a right way. I just think you have to begin and let life determine what the amorphous blob wants to look like. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. I just want to mention that coming up we have Execution of Justice, written and directed by Emily Mann. Runs from,
thank you, July 12th to the 25th, opening on July 16th. Later in the season, as we mentioned, The Witnesses. We have playwrights Bishop Chum and Sharon Rothstein for the next new play workshops. And please, shameless plug, don't miss the one acts that are coming up that will be directed by the Drama League Fellows. Yes.
I would say, please say, sign the book. Chris
Yes.
can,
You can sign it, I'll sign it.
Chris can sign
And
it.
then you can sign it too.
And Saturday we're going to do a story circle after what time's the show?
5.
5 p.m. show, and we'll do a
Thank
story
you.
circle after, which is something DNA works. It's a really interesting conversation. So
Yes. Yeah, so come and talk to Chris, meet Chris if you didn't get to ask a question.